Is everybody, the STDs in San Francisco, and I think it was 1986, went down that year by 85% because of a big change in behavior, either using condoms or using non-penetrative methods of sex, basically. And, of course, back then the government was absolutely no help because the president was notorious for not even mentioning it until many years into the epidemic. So there was a lot of grassroots effort. And then in 1995, you had the various drugs which came out, which made it, they were a double-edged sword because on one hand they saved many people's lives. I know a person who got infected back in the early 80s, he's still alive today basically from that. Though recently he's gotten off these drugs because of their big side effects, and so far he's okay, thank God. In other cases though, what it's done, and AIDS organizations have found it's very hard to get the kind of interest in the issue as there used to be because the face of AIDS has changed. With these drugs now, most people with AIDS appear healthy. You don't see people who are wasting away down on the street. And the largest increases are often outside the United States. And so for people in the United States, it's, you know, the media doesn't really stay on issues very long. They get tired and they go to something else. So it's, you know, and people don't often care about things that are happening in other countries. So it's a problem, and people are caring less. And in some cases, especially young people that are coming out today, there is actually an increase in unsafe sex. And I find it very alarming. I think it's very irresponsible, actually, because people know nowadays, and maybe there's not enough sex education to tell people these things are safe, these things are not safe, you know. And if you are, among that, I mean, if somebody is, has a lot of, anonymous encounters, things like that, that
promiscuous.
Yeah, exactly. That thing makes it even more dangerous. And if people don't know that, they definitely need to be taught this because people are still dying from that. And
I saw in the news that there was a transgender youth who were attacked by some other youth at a shelter for transgender youth, and they also attacked the priest who is over the school. Why do you believe that the transgender youth were attacked?
Okay, let me just say this. First of all, I don't agree with violence. I'm an advocate of violence of any kind. You're never going to beat the opinion of a person out of them. They're going to believe what they want to believe and do what they want to do, whether you beat them or not. So we cannot beat them. You have to love people into changing and bring forth understanding of the mindset in order to help people to change. I can't say why they beat them, because there is a hatred. There is a hatred for homosexuality.
Is it justified for someone to hate something that God, being that we have a God or serve a God that hates sin, is it justified to show hate, render hate for hate?
Well, Jesus said, be not a striker. I can dislike, but love at the same time. I dislike the ways of my children sometimes. My children dislike the ways of their father sometimes. But I still love them. What we have to learn is anti-tolerance. I'm against it, but I must learn to live with. I cannot change America. I cannot change the way people are. I can offer change, but I can't force them to change. There's repercussions, and God is the ultimate judge. My job is to tell them, this is what we offer as an alternative life. We offer a more abundant life. We offer a more satisfactory life. We offer a joy-filled life, a peaceful life, a life that is, we cannot say no life is going to be without some issues, but one that is a lot more peaceful and productive.
Here's a two-part question.
okay.
Are you gay, and how does it feel to be segregated against?
Well, yes, I'm certainly gay, and as far as how it feels, I mean, it was, in one sense, very upsetting, and the other sense, when I first encountered that, that was an impetus for me to start researching the subject, and a lot of good things came out of that. I mean, one thing is that, you know, people were alleging this kind of thing, and I remember actually opening the Bible many years ago and saying, you know, I'm not exactly sure what it says in here, but whatever it is, it must be really bad, you know, from what people are saying, though it actually wasn't. And finding out, I mean, you know, my faith is very important to me. I mean, as far as the doctrines of the church, the incarnation of Christ, the life of the church, I mean, this is, it's all truth to me. I always want to find out everything I can about this. I mean, you have, you know, sometimes even with other issues, you have, you know, when churches are in many different countries and cultures, sometimes you have cultural accretion. Sometimes you go to a church in Greece and you go to church here and they have little different customs with them as well.
Right.
Does it matter that the custom is different here and here? Is it just like, you know, just a little different custom, or is this theologically significant? Sometimes you hear talk about small T traditions and big T traditions. Okay. The small T traditions are like, well, you know, that in, for example, on Palm Sunday the Greeks will give you palms, right, and then the Russians will give you pussy willows. And this is the pussy willow I kept here, right, for 2 years because it never decayed after I went to the Russian church on Palm Sunday. So I just sort of kept it. So it was, you know, but that's obviously a very minor little thing. But, you know, you have some churches that are very gay friendly. Okay. You have some churches that are very gay hostile. Okay. Who's right? That's something which is, the Greek term would be theologumenos, which is based on this that's being theologically discussed. That there isn't a total agreement on it. There's never been an ecumenical council about it. The closest I'd say we've come to having some kind of universal discussion about this was that 2006 conference in Boston, where it was all discussed very civilly, and I think a lot of progress was made, and hopefully there'll be more things such as that. Okay. Of course, in the meantime, people do have to live their lives also. Sometimes I think there's like, I mean, there's a view that, okay, well, maybe at some point there'll be a pronouncement by somebody about this. But then what about people today who are living, who, you know, they might, you know, their family and friend reject them because they're gay, or they, you know, sometimes people actually find a partner who they love, and then they have to break up with them because they feel it's a tremendous sin, and they're both heartbroken. So it's a tough situation.
Junior high school's students are coming out, and some are practicing for the very first time. The government embraces it, but God defaces it. Homosexuality is not a lifestyle, but a perverted seed sown by a perverted spirit called Satan, which produces ungodly behaviors, relationships, and mindsets.